Great. So welcome everyone to our second event of the year of 2023. It's Wednesday, January 18th, and I'm really happy to present to you this great series at the Canadian Multicultural L.E.A.D Organization for Mentoring and Training called the Career Confidence Chats. I'm Valerie. I am the program coordinator at the L.E.A.D org. I'm also a career development practitioner and career confidence coach. I love helping young people and adults from all different walks of life really gain the confidence in themselves so they can go in the direction of their dream careers, especially if you're experiencing some challenges. And this topic is near and dear to my heart. It's all about gratitude and how we can cultivate abundance for the new year, 2023, through practicing gratitude. Before I dive in, I would like to read our land acknowledgement. As Treaties people on Turtle Island, we are obligated to uphold treaties made from a long time ago. Where I am situated, I would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. I also want to thank the First Peoples for their ongoing teaching of how we are to learn on the land and from the land, in partnership with each other, the animals, and the plants. Thank you. All right, so our agenda of this evening, we've completed our check-in. I'm going to share about the L.E.A.D organization. So if anyone's here for the first time, welcome. Then we will move on to community agreements. I'll introduce myself. We'll head over to the main event, and at the end, we have a post-event survey, and I'll give you information about our upcoming events. So this is some information about our wonderful org, the L.E.A.D org. We are a charitable nonprofit community organization that provides mentoring and training for youths and adults by assisting them in furthering their education via programs, seminars, workshops, conferences, and meetings, and by helping them access pertinent support groups and resources within the community. Our mission statement is we give individuals from youth to seniors the support to develop strategies and tools to create their own success stories. A few community agreements to participate this evening is to please be respectful, be authentic, be open, be present, and be active. This will be an interactive session. So if you don't already have your pen and paper, get them ready because you're going to walk away from this workshop with a few key takeaways of your own. All right, so let's do this. Let's move on to our Start with Gratitude workshop. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to switch my screens. Okay, so today's workshop is all about cultivating abundance for the new year through the practice of gratitude. So I've decided to actually name it the practice of gratitude. Originally, it was going to be through an attitude of gratitude, but then I realized, talking to one of my good friends here, hello Rose, that gratitude is not only an attitude, but a practice. So it's something that we actually need to do, and if we do it daily, it can have immense benefits for our well-being and our mindsets. So a little bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm a career development practitioner, and to get a little more personal, my background in this field is very much informed by my personal history and background as someone who was born and raised in Toronto by refugee parents. I share this because a lot of my challenges and struggles growing up, being a person of, born in two different cultures, really informs the work I do now, working with people from diverse backgrounds, especially the challenges I face with trying to develop my career without having a lot of guidance. I'm a graduate of University of Toronto, where I studied women and gender studies, and I'm also a George Brown graduate of the renowned career development practitioner program. I'm a very strong advocate of personal and professional development, and I'm super passionate about community engagement and supporting youth with their careers. I especially love helping youth and young professionals from diverse backgrounds who are experiencing, periods of transition, turn that self-doubt into self-confidence by helping them see their unique brilliance so they can thrive in careers that are aligned with what they love. Tonight, I'm going to take you through a journey of starting with gratitude. So we're going to start off with talking all about gratitude. We'll have a quote, we'll have a discussion. I would love to hear from you in the audience what gratitude means to you, what you're grateful for. We'll touch on the purpose of the event, the benefits of gratitude, and 5 ways that having gratitude can help you build your career with confidence. We'll talk a little bit about the science behind gratitude, because it's not just fluffy stuff. There's real neuroscience behind it. And we'll also discuss the lack versus abundance mindset. Then we'll move on to 3 activities. Our first one will involve writing down our key accomplishments, our self-appreciations and gratitudes. Activity 2 will be turning that list that we've created into solid affirmations. And activity 3, we're going to do some future scripting and write about those future wins as if it's already happened. Then we'll wind down with some final thoughts and a recap. We would love to hear your number 1 takeaways. All right, so let's talk about gratitude. This is a quote I found by the author Eckhart Tolle. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. And it really resonated with me, especially on this topic. Acknowledging the good you already have in your life is a foundation for all abundance. So let me read that again. And I'd love to know what some of your thoughts are when you hear these words. Acknowledging the good you already have in your life is a foundation for all abundance. Okay, I see some nods. So a few key things stand out for me. First word that really stands out is acknowledgement, foundation, and abundance. So now I'd love to hear from you what this quote says to you about recognizing everything that we have and that being the foundation for abundance. Over to William and then Sean.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. Those same words stand out to me as well. So your foundation is kind of what you've already built, right? I think sometimes we're so focused on the future and what to do next that we don't pause to, we only see how far we are away from the target and we don't recognize the foundation that we've already built. So I agree with you. Like when you stop and recognize the foundation that you've already built, you can be grateful for it and, move forward with a different perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, William. I love that you shared that oftentimes we do look at how far we have to go, right? Instead of acknowledging what we already have, right? And when we do take the time to acknowledge what we have, it does make us realize, wow, okay, I do have a lot going on. I do have a lot to be grateful for. Or over to Sean. And then Emil.
Yeah, so there were like a couple things I caught from this quote. I think first off, there's no lie detected here. I feel everything that Eckhart saying is absolutely 100% factual. What I caught from that is that I notice sometimes that when we think about the foundation we have, we usually talk about the failures or about I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to mess up or slip and miss the opportunity. And I think because we always have that mindset about what's going to happen if I fail, what's going to happen if I don't succeed, we forget to acknowledge the fact that we've done good or there are positive aspects about us. So I feel like what Eckhart's saying in this quote, it's allowing us to really embrace the good, because sometimes we feel like we embrace the good, we're being braggadocious, but it's not being braggadocious. It's just more of self-awareness and self-appreciation. So that's what I caught from that quote.
Love it, Sean. You basically gave a whole preview of exactly what we're going to get into tonight, allowing ourselves to have more of that deeper recognition of what we have going on in our lives, whether that's our accomplishments, what we appreciate about ourselves, or what we're grateful for. Excellent. Okay, over to Emil, and then we'll move on.
I think our sort of natural tendency is to think about what I need, what I want, and looking at tasks that need to get done. And we forget all the good stuff that we already have that enables us to move ahead.
Ooh, that was really good. We forget about all the good stuff that we already have that is a foundation that allows us to move ahead. And when we give that recognition, we realize, wow, I have a lot of abundance. Wonderful. And in the chat, Stacey shared, enjoy the journey, not the goal. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Okay, moving forth. I want to know from the audience, what brings you here? So you're welcome to share in the chat, or if you like, in just a sentence or two, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself to share. What brought you to tonight's event? Why this topic? What specifically about this topic really resonated for you, and especially right now with what you're experiencing in life? Ronnie.
Yeah, hi. I have, at the moment, I have my son who is, I'm supporting him in his recovery from depression, and it's kind of it's a very immediate for me I'm always trying to bring it to him that what he already has, is the most important thing, and living in the present and connecting with his value, his good, all his attributes, all his good qualities, all that he's achieved. And I think of it as being the most important thing I can do for him at this time. So it just draws me in whenever I hear anything that sort of brings up those topics or that topic.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Ronnie.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you could be here tonight, and I hope that what you learn you can use to further provide that encouragement and support for your son. He's very lucky to have you. All right, next. Love to hear it. Lorraine.
I currently am a volunteer for North York Community House, and I facilitate English conversation for newcomers. So a lot of these newcomers lack self-confidence about what their future is, and they're concerned about getting a job, and naturally their English is not up to par. So I'm here tonight to see how I can help them gain confidence when reaching their goals.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lorraine. Having worked with many newcomers myself, I have definitely experienced seeing many struggle with their confidence when it comes to gaining meaningful employment or getting into meaningful careers. So what we share tonight, what we learn about focusing on our accomplishments, focusing on our gratitudes, I hope it really helps. That way you could pass it forward and help your clients gain that confidence through that focus on what's going well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, we have time for one or two more shares. I'll check the chat. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Email gratitude is a practice I love, and I look forward to enriching my experiences. It's also a practice I love. Over to you, Mary. Thanks for sharing, Emil.
I mentioned this to you, Valerie, at the end of the last session. The word gratitude has been used a lot in the last 3 years, and it's taken on different levels of meaning. And I think this session is a good opportunity to sort of hit the pause button and give some time and attention to what gratitude means, because like a lot of other terms over the last few years, we talk about it more and more, but it's good to be able to really discuss it and get to the heart of what gratitude is, and therefore enjoy or appreciate the benefits of being grateful.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. I agree. I'm sure many of us can agree. The terms like gratitude, mindset, abundance has been, become very popular. But what does it really mean? So I'm really happy that I can create this space this evening for us to take a deeper intentional dive into what gratitude means and what it means personally to us. And Alina shares in the chat, the topic gratitude, or to be authentic to myself. Oh, I love that you tied gratitude and authenticity together, is what brought her here. She started her work at Student Union these days, and she feels a little stressed and she wants to grow through her experience. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that, Alina. I believe that having a practice of gratitude, especially when we're going through challenges and difficulties, can be really helpful. And when we talk about gratitude, what we're grateful for, it doesn't mean like, oh, everything is good, toxic positivity. I am definitely not an advocate for that. But instead, when we are able to consciously choose what to focus on, and even if the day is not going well, when we're able to look at a couple of things that actually did go well, we can start to shift things positively for us. So I'm really glad you're here. This has been one of the most powerful practices that I've had. So glad to share it. All right, so let's move on. So what is gratitude? We've been talking about here and there, but would anyone like to define it? What does it mean to you personally? Maybe someone who hasn't shared yet. Melody?
I'd say gratitude is, I guess, the process of being thankful for what you already have, and just really embracing that and just taking a pause to be thankful for it and certain things.
I love it. I love that pause, taking a pause, that intentionality, right? Because unless we take that pause, that intentional effort, that intentional conscious efforts to notice these things, take note, write these things, it may just pass us by. And so with the feelings of the gratitude and joy that come with it. All right, hey, that was a wonderful definition, Melody. Let's move on. So what's one thing that you're grateful for? So I'd love to hear from you. Either you can unmute yourself or type in the chat. And I encourage you to be as specific as possible. We're going to do an exercise a little bit later where you're going to create your own list, but try to be as specific as possible because, we can easily say something like, oh, I'm grateful that there's a roof over my head. I'm grateful there's food in my fridge, which are all things to be grateful for. But let's get a little bit more specific. For example, okay, yeah, family, especially fiance and sister. And so, William, do you want to be a little bit more specific? Like, what is it that you're grateful for of your family? Is it like they're always there for you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just grateful grateful for the family unit that I have. It's really such a blessing. My fiance in particular, we've been together over 6 years. Recently, I lost my father-in-law late last year, so it's been, I guess that's part of why I'm here as well as encouragement and support has been big during that process. And my sister recently moved with her husband to like rural BC. Like she's closer to Russia than she is to Toronto. So, I'm just really grateful. I'm inspired by how brave she is to go and start a new life. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for them and inspired by them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, William. And so I encourage everyone to be as specific as they can when it comes to talking about your gratitudes, what you're grateful for, because it helps you dive in a little bit deeper and really anchor it. Thank you, Rose. She says, I'm grateful for you, Valerie, and our friendship. I'm also grateful for you as well, Rose, and our friendship, which spans over 10 years. Me and Rose go way back to university days. Lorraine says, having lots of friends who share my trials and tribulations. Yes, so it's amazing to have a support system. Sean says, staying committed to my craft, even when there are times I could easily give up. Also having a supportive family with my goals and how we support each other in everything we do. That's amazing. Wow. These are such amazing gratitudes. I just want to take a moment. Oh, okay. After I read Stacey's. And Stacey says, yeah, Sean, here's your commitment. Okay, so Stacey shares, I'm honestly grateful that no matter where or what I go through in life, the universe is always here to have my back, to remind me that it believes in me and won't give up on me, sending me signs and reminders constantly what good I have in my life. Seeing that we are all seeing as we are all connected, I suppose the universe is telling me that it is really me telling me that. I am also grateful for everyone who surrounds me in life and are the reminder of the fact there is always good in life. These are so amazing. I just want to take like at least 10 seconds of pausing and silence just so we can just take in our gratitudes, what we just shared. So yes, I love it as well, Sean. Take a moment, wow, to just reflect on those amazing gratitudes you shared. Oh. Emil says, the love of my grandkids, age 5, 3, and 1. Wow. So a gratitude I just thought of is I'm just grateful for each and every one who is here this evening. It's such a blessing because I remember the times before I got into the field that I'm in now, before this career path. And yeah, sometimes I just have pinch me moments. Like I'm really here doing and making a living doing and teaching what I love. So I'm very grateful for that. And so I hope you remember that moment that you felt in that pause and keep it with you. And we're going to be able to recreate it as well. All right, so why make gratitude a practice? On to our next question. I agree, Stacey, absolutely beautiful. So why make it a practice? And by practice, that means something you don't just do once, one and done, but really intentionally. What can it do for you when you really make this a practice? So you can think about the emotions you just felt. I felt very positive and uplifted. You feel free to share in the chat or unmute yourself.
Well, can I say?
Sure.
I'm just thinking how
Ronnie.
it's very it's a very good even strategy or technique when I'm not happy with something. I can say to myself, I can switch to being grateful. When you're being grateful, or when I'm being grateful, I can't, there's no room to be ungrateful or to be complaining. You know what I mean? It takes up the space in my thinking. So it's a very good way to switch. Shift your mindset.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
I find it really works. I can be in a very bad mood, and then I can say, I can choose to continue like this, or I can really say, just switch and say everything's great and I'm happy. And the words even in my head make a difference. I don't know. Maybe it's just
Oh no, there's a
superficial.
real science behind it. Thank you, Ronnie, for sharing. I love that you shared. It creates like a switch that you flip, right? And you start to shift your attention and onto something positive instead. Thank you, Ronnie, for sharing. All right, over to Sean. I make gratitude a practice.
I think for me, making gratitude a practice, it's sort of like making sure, again, kind of extending on what Ronnie said, making sure that even for the moments you think, you should feel ungrateful, it's just a reminder to, again, to love yourself. And I think it's also that every time we're focused on like perfection and everything, having gratitude as a practice kind of removes that perception of perfection, that not everyone's perfect. And that's not a bad thing. It's not to be where you have to get everything 100% the first time. For me, that was my longest mindset. I always thought I had to get everything perfect. And I felt like if I didn't get it perfect, that was bad. But I think, what that does, having perfection all the time, that affects your mental health. I think, having gratitude, it's also, a mechanism for making sure that your mental health is in state, because again, you're not pushing yourself over the limit to make sure that everything is perfect. Everything needs to be 100%. It's okay to have like, those moments where you weren't able to get something done, but don't see it as a mistake, see it as a lesson. And from that, you can have gratitude of seeing those lessons turn into wins in the future. So that's kind of where I caught from in terms
That
of
was
like making
amazing.
gratitude a practice.
I love it. Thank you. So many amazing golden nuggets there, Sean. Gratitude helping with your mental health, doing away with perfectionism. I know that feeling well. And I can say that having gratitude has really helped me move away from that perfectionistic tendency where instead of looking, oh my God, I have so much far to go, I acknowledge, you know what, I got a lot done today. You know what, I did my best today, and my best, that's good enough, right? And there's more where they came from. So it's helped me have more grace with myself. Wonderful. Okay, over to Uredo and then Stacy.
Oh yeah, what I was going to say is very similar to what the other, like what everyone has said so far. I'll just add that practicing gratitude, it just helps, like making that a practice helps to actually, like all the emotions that come with gratitude, like all that positive experiences, it makes that consistent. Because I find that like as human beings, we tend to focus more on the negative. So if we're not doing something that's helping us to shift our perspective, we would always just consistently focus on the negative. So if we want that change in mindsets, then we need to like incorporate something in our lives more often that'll make us focus on the positives.
Thank you for mentioning that. So it really is a neuroscience behind having gratitude because as human beings, we are hardwired for negativity because we are wired for survival. So we have that negativity bias just implanted in there for survival in case we need to run away from a bear. But because of that, even though if there isn't danger, we still have that wiring. So what can antidote that is having a practice of gratitude where you're consistently building upon the positivity, right? And building a new neural pathway by focusing on what is going well. And over time, day by day, you can find yourself shifting, as I have with the practice I will share later. Over to Stacy.
Well, Val, you basically already said what I was going to say because we've had this conversation numerous times that we are hardwired to be negative, and that is why it is a practice because we're born like that. Like we really are, and to practice it is something I think like we have to practice everything in life. What is it? I think people used to say like practice makes perfect, but it's perfect practice makes perfect as well. And it kind of reminds me of the whole, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it is true. I mean, we just have to keep on reminding ourselves of the greatness that is with life, of what we have. And I think a lot of times, like I had said earlier in the little chat, is a lot of people just end up looking at the end goal and they forget so much about the steps and the things that we have done to take ourselves to where we need to be. And they just remember failure, but failure are just things that we learn not to do again or things to learn from, because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't know what success is. And so, yeah.
Very well said. And this is why Stacy is one of my dear soul sisters. So fail, they say fail, what it stands for is first attempt in learning. Wow, so many golden nuggets there. Thank you for sharing, Stacy. And lastly but not least, Alina shares gratitude can be perceived by learning. Mindset has influence people's lives, and it can be changed through guidance. And Melody says, I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in life. Just like what Stacey was saying, we often focus on the end goal, getting bigger or better, whose grass is greener, what pasture is greener, that we get caught up in life, that we forget about the importance of being grateful for the things we already have. I definitely connect to what Sean said with the perfectionist mindset. Sometimes we forget how far we've come and put ourselves down because of that. Exactly. So having gratitude can help us be kinder to ourselves and have more. And yes, Rita, I also love everyone's response. Wonderful. All right. So the purpose of the event today, we've kind of covered it in our discussions, is to help you cultivate greater abundance in career and life for many reasons that we just discussed. Gratitude can turn what we have into enough. So let's shift from feeling like we lack into knowing that we are already enough and everything else is really the cherry on top. Right. So let's talk about a couple of benefits of gratitude. Of course, we've listed many, but we can get even more specific here. So what are some of the benefits, some tangible benefits? So we talked about just feeling more positive daily, and what can that do for you, for example? Feel free to type in the chat or raise your hand and share. Yes, I agree. Melody says it can be a great motivator. William says it maintains perspective. Amazing. That's right. It puts things into perspectives and it maintains that healthy perspective as well. All right, any other shares? Feel free to type it into the chat. Here are a few that I want to share with you. Oh, all right. Thank you so much, Stacey. Appreciate you coming by. And Sean says self-reflection and self-care. Yes, taking the time to look at what we've done allows us to grow our mindset in a healthier manner. It's amazing. An ability to set more goals. And I think even more specifically, goals that are meaningful and important to us. Just like we talked about in last week's prez, which is all about personal values. So of course, the benefits of having gratitude includes greater positivity and a sense of well-being, helps us in dealing with stress. So therefore, we can also have better self-esteem, better self-confidence, decrease stress and negative emotions, which can often lead to a downward spiral. And of course, improved outlook and ability to spot opportunities, because when you're in this groove and you're grateful for what's going on in your life, you can start to spot even more things to be grateful for. And like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you become this receptive receiver to things coming in. Right? And of course, more fulfilling relationships and connectivity with one another. And so let's talk about gratitude and career development. So how can it specifically help you with your career? Well, 5 ways I have listed here that gratitude can help you build your career with confidence include, can help you increase your ability to connect with others easily and authentically, because you're in that positive groove. It can also help with greater ability to articulate your strengths, skills, and talents in interviews. The exercise we're going to do soon will help you build that list and get into that groove where it's easy for you to talk about yourself. And that translates to easily talking about yourself in an interview. And of course, it can increase confidence in yourself as well as your abilities to go for it. And this is so important, especially when you're doing a job search, as you're building your career, which can come with a lot of challenges. Having gratitude cultivates a growth mindset, whether you win or lose. Lose is in quotation marks because we never really lose. It's always a learning experience. And lastly, it trains your mind to look at what's going well instead of focusing on how far you have to go, etc. Okay, what else would you add to the list? What are some other ways that having gratitude can help you build your career? Sean.
I definitely think having gratitude for yourself, I think it allows you to show that same type of like, like want for other people. So I feel like when you're grateful for some of the things that you do, maybe you have like an inner circle, maybe you have other friends who are kind of in that same slump that you were in before. And I think if you're able to find your own gratitude, you could probably spread that same positivity and affirmation to a person who really needs it as well. Because, I may not be the only one that might be going through that, issue of trying to find like the positive things that I've done. So maybe I might have like my best friend, maybe he feels the same way. And maybe at one point I'm able to actually find that gratitude. So when I do so, I don't want to just be that, okay, I'm grateful. And then I don't really care about what anyone else is thinking. For me, I want to be that everyone should feel grateful for what they're doing. So if I have the opportunity to make someone like realize how grateful they are for their things, I think that would be really confident. It's like you're kind of like a motivator in a way. That's kind of how I would.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Sean. And I think, Sean, you have that natural motivator and developer leadership trait where you naturally motivate and encourage people. And, when you get into the groove of gratitude, it's easy to spread that and have that positive ripple effect with others. The world needs more of that. So thank you for sharing your gifts with the world. Over to William. Thank you, Sean.
I think specifically in building your career, just agreeing with the second to last point you have here, right? Like everyone faces tough days at work. And I think when you have a gratitude mindset, it allows you to frame it as an opportunity, to solve a problem and make a difference as opposed to, becoming overwhelmed. And I think that when you stack those up one after the other, they start to become wins. And I think gratitude has a lot to do with not becoming overwhelmed and being able to maintain your perspective.
Thank you for sharing that, William, about maintaining your perspective and reframing opportunities, reframing challenges that you go through as opportunities to learn from. So we never really lose. Mary.
Well, sort of to pick up on what we've been saying, when I think specifically about certain aspects of the career development process, and particularly people who are looking to launch their careers or to make a career change, you're up to a lot of rejection. There's a lot of negativity going on. And it's a good idea at the end of the day to sit down and actually articulate, well, what went well? Because you put yourself out there so many times and you're going to hear crickets or you're going to hear thanks, but no thanks. And so gratitude keeps you going. And especially when you're at that stage of your career, when you're trying to transition or launch it.
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Absolutely. When you are in a period of transition, that can be one of the hardest times, and it can really test your confidence. So love that you shared. It can really help with the challenges that often come with transitioning, trying to find new work, etc. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for sharing.
I just wanted to jump in, Mary, that just resonated so much, like I think it's sort of the part of the process that maybe you don't see, because it's an emotional roller coaster at times, right? It does feel good when you're motivated and you're building a resume, you're seeing jobs that match and you're applying. It feels good when you get contacted for an interview. But like you said, sometimes there's rejection, sometimes there are crickets. So, gratitude definitely allows you to reframe those moments. And, speaking from like experience, as I'm sure we've all had like crazy situations where 5 interviews deep into a 2-month long process, finally you get edged out, right? And it's like, okay, you have to look back on those interviews and sort of pull out the positives from that instead of being so negative. So sorry to jump in, but like that really, I grabbed onto that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, William. Absolutely. You said you pretty much summed it up, a emotional roller coaster. So having the attitude of gratitude and the practice can really help us hang on to the bar when we're being spun around. Right. And yes, Emil, really great point. Others love to work and associate with grateful people. It's good for networking, for sure. And yes, reframing is absolutely so valuable. All right, so we talked about it a little bit earlier, the science, the neuroscience. So having gratitude is not just feel good fluff. There's a real science behind it. And I just want to share a quote by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Who is familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work? All right, Emil, anyone else? Okay, Emil, since you raised your hand, would you like to share a little bit about who Dr. Joe Dispenza is and the work he focuses on?
I attended one of his workshops a number of years ago. That was, I guess, part of the Hay House initiatives. So the part that I'm sort of familiar with is our connection with the spiritual world. And but he's very positive in all kinds of things. I haven't been reading him recently, but he's one of the lights in helping people see life differently.
Thank you for sharing, Emil. So Dr. Joe is very well known for his neuroscience work. He has a book called Becoming Supernatural that talks about the brain. And I think a lot of the stuff that's pretty much kind of untapped that we don't realize. And so I've watched some of his stuff, which has been very interesting. And so he talks about gratitude as well. So in this quote, he says, gratitude is more than an intellectual thought process. You have to feel as though whatever you want is in your reality at this very moment. Thus, your body, which only understands feelings, must be convinced that it has the emotional quotient of the future experience happening to you now. So in this quote, I think he's basically explaining the feelings that we can have when we actually feel and visualize what we're grateful for, right? And it's beyond just an intellectual thought process, because your body, which only understands feelings and doesn't know if something's happening for real or is happening by imagination, right? It becomes convinced that it's happening now. So when you are in this process of feeling grateful and very happy for what's going on in your life, it really makes major waves. And this is especially important when it comes to what we want to build for ourselves in the future. We don't need to wait for it to happen already, right? We can, in the present moment, already be grateful for those things. And that in turn can create more of those feelings and the emotional quotient of those things that we want to have in the future. So we're going to do an exercise about that later. We're going to do a little bit of future scripting to get into this type of groove that Dr. Joe talks about. Speaking of grooves, has anyone heard of neuroplasticity? Okay, I see some nods. Okay, Kamani, welcome Kamani, so glad to have you here. Kamani, can you tell us what have you heard about neuroplasticity? What is it?
It's pretty much the brain itself having the ability to yield to the environment that it's in, right? To
yes,
kind of dictate future functioning, I guess.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So I think prior to this neuroscience stuff, and I'm not a neuroscientist, I just am interested in this stuff, so I'm sharing. It was believed that the brain was not malleable, that it couldn't be changed, that it was fixed. But science has shown that there is actually malleability with the brain, that like plastic, I guess. I'm just guessing. Neuroplasticity, plastic grooves, you can change it, you can melt it, you can actually create new neural pathways in your brain, right? And we can choose what neural pathways we want. So let's choose gratitude. So in a practice we're going to do shortly, it's going to help you to build that new neural pathway, that highway in your brain. So taking the express route to negativity, we can start to build this new highway that leads us easily to the land of feeling gratitude and all those good emotions that come with feeling grateful. All right, so just a quick discussion about lack versus abundance mindset. So how do you know when you're in a lack mindset versus abundance mindset? These are also very popular terms these days. So let's start with the lack mindset. What is a lack mindset? How do you know you're in one? What do you start saying to yourself when you're in one? How do you recognize it? Rose, over to you. Thanks for raising your hand.
I just want to say this before I have to go, but the reason why gratitude is so powerful is because it helps you cultivate a sense of enoughness in a culture that is constantly giving you signs and signals and information and data that suggests that you are lacking something. Because in order for them to sell you something, they need to kind of show you that you're lacking something. So you're not pretty enough, you're not rich enough, you're not smart enough. There's always somebody better than you, right? And so what gratitude does is kind of takes the power back and gives it back to yourself and says, you know, I am good enough, I have enough, I am enough, right? And so that's the power of it, and that's why it's something that we need to keep going back to every single day and reminding ourselves, like, no matter how small the thing is, if you give it gratitude and say thank you for this opportunity, thank you for this walk that I've had today, every little thing, then you start to see everything as, you know, life as richer and more vibrant, and it just builds you up from the inside out, and then you're able to give that to other people, right? And so that's why it's so powerful. Thank you, Valerie, for this
You're
chat.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much, Rose, for sharing that. I could not have said it better myself. Rose is also a dear soul sister friend of mine, and I think you summed it up really well, especially talking about, you know, we are in a world. Sean says, Rose literally said everything we were thinking. Yes, thank you, Rose. We are in a world that proliferates and profits from making us feel lack, right, in order to sell us something. So we can often fall into that pitfall of always feeling lack, feeling like we're not doing enough, we're not good enough. So the way we take our power back and cultivate greater abundance is through this practice of gratitude. Amazing. Any other shares? I think Rose summed it up well. All right. So since I think we kind of know about lack. Yes, lack is also connected with the notion of scarcity, not enough to share with others. Yes. So again, with the very capitalistic culture that we live in, competitive, people pitted against each other, not enough resources to go around, and there actually is, right? So it can also, having gratitude can also have very positive ripple effects on the world and humanity. All right. So on the flip side, abundance mindset. Ronnie.
I just want to read something that I have on my fridge,
Sure.
which is, I think it's relevant. You will never stop wanting more until you allow yourself to have what you already have. Right? That's about, you know, always wanting more, the lack, until you realize or appreciate what you already have. So it's just the wording is a little different, but it speaks to that, I think.
Thank you for sharing, Ronnie. Gratitude, turning what we have into enough. Okay, so let's move forth so we can do our activities. All right, so just like Ronnie just shared, gratitude shifts your focus to what you have, not what you're missing. right? Whose grass is greener, you know, is very future oriented, out there. Gratitude is very present. And the more you focus on what you have, the more you have of it and more. All right, so now let's move on to our activity. So if you prefer to write, please get your pen and paper ready, or if you want, use a document or your phone. Sean.
Yeah, unfortunately, I actually have to go. There's a lot of
No worries.
stuff happening in my house right now, so I
No
have
worries.
to leave. But I do want to say thank you for the conversation.
You're welcome.
Much needed. Thank you to like everyone who got to voice their opinions. You guys are awesome and amazing at what you guys do as well. So yeah, definitely enjoyed the talk.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you here, Sean.
Yeah,
Take
appreciate
care.
it.
See you next time. All right. So now that you have your materials ready, the first activity we are going to work on, for short, I call it the AAGs, the accomplishments, appreciations, and gratitudes. So for those who were part of the L.E.A.D org's career camp or L.E.A.D program, you are already familiar with this activity. And so basically it's a very simple writing activity. You can either write, or that's my modality. I love writing, journaling. That's how I express myself and brain dump my ideas. So I use pen and paper, but it could also be a voice note activity if you prefer to use voice. I prefer paper, so I have a record and I can flip back and see. So this can be a daily practice. So basically what it is you write down your top accomplishments of the day. And I try to do it daily, but if I miss a couple of days here and there, I can even look back and think about what happened in the previous days and write down. So you're keeping a record of your accomplishments. So you can write down what's winning, what's going well. And next, appreciations. So this is different from gratitudes. This is actually self-appreciation. So we're going to be writing down what we appreciate and what we're grateful for about ourselves. Now, at first, it may seem a little strange or unnatural or even braggadocious to talk about, oh yeah, I appreciate myself, la-di-da. But oftentimes we don't give ourselves that acknowledgement or appreciation. So this practice can also help you boost your esteem. One anecdote that I often share with the youth in our program that exemplifies self-appreciation is the time that Snoop Dogg got his Hollywood star. Now, has anyone seen that video where Snoop Dogg accepted this Hollywood star? You know, big deal. Finally, he gets the star. And so he gives this acceptance speech. Is anyone familiar? Okay. Well, if you look it up later, I just forewarn you, there are some expletives that he expresses when he accepts this award. So basically in the reception, he says, you know, he thanks all his mentors. And then he says, lastly, I want to thank me. I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for working hard. I want to thank me for never giving up. And he goes on to say, Snoop Dogg, you're one bad blank, 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 right? So let's turn that gratitude onto ourselves as well and thank ourselves for all our amazing hard work, maybe it's our introspection, our kindness, our care, maybe we're a great friend. Let's acknowledge that too. And lastly, gratitude, that's pretty self-explanatory. We're writing down the things that we're grateful for. So let's take a few minutes. Let's take about 2 minutes to write down maybe 3 to 5 things in each category. And try to be as specific as possible, just like we were at the beginning, for each section. For example, accomplishments. I accomplished facilitating an amazing session for participants of the L.E.A.D org on the topic of gratitude. People got amazing takeaways that they're integrating into their days. Wow, that's a huge accomplishment. Appreciation, I appreciate myself for having the courage and the passion to create this workshop that it's a topic I'm really passionate about. So I appreciate myself for, going outside of my comfort zone and sharing with others. And gratitude is, I'm grateful for everybody who attended this evening and shared their amazing anecdotes, right? So let's pause here for about 2 minutes and then we'll move on to our next activity. Right. I will let you know when our 2 minutes is up. Okay, another minute. All right, so time is up. So I hope you had lots of good feels from writing out your list. Don't worry if you couldn't come up with 3 or 5, even if it's just one thing. It could be something even you think is small. It all counts. So I'd love to hear from the audience now. You want to share one from each section, one accomplishment, one appreciation, and one gratitude. Okay, I'm going to call, oh yes, Alina. Go ahead, Alina.
Yeah. It's my first time to do AAG this year. Yeah. And I want to share my AAG with you. I think my AAG today is I have deeper understanding of what gratitude is, including the reception of what we already have, why gratitude can be practiced, and the relationships between career development and gratitude. I learned many different opinions today. And as for the appreciations, I think for myself is being open-minded and always willing to try something new. And it's my first time to attend this series of workshop. And I think the gratitude is I feel grateful for we gather together and have deeply explore the views related to gratitude. Yeah, I think that's my AAG.
Thank you so much for sharing, Alina. I love that you shared that. And so, and I just had to fill everybody in, Alina was actually a very active participant in the Lead Org's Career Camp program. So we actually practiced the AAGs very frequently throughout the camp. And so I just want to ask you, Alina, how have things shifted for you since learning about this methodology?
I think through AAG, I have a more positive mindset, and I always feel positive to my life, and I can solve out the problem because I have someone always supporting me. Yeah, I will think so, and I can solve the problem instead of in the past. I think when I meet difficult, I think I can solve it, but because of AAG, I think even though many difficult, but and I can solve it. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear, Alina. I'm so glad to hear that this practice has really helped you feel more positive when it comes to facing challenges compared to before. So it sounds like there's a really big before and after. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Alina. Over to you, Emil. Would you like to share one from each section?
Yeah, I guess first of all, I was surprised at how many things that I did get done today. But one of the things was buying materials for doing the renovations in our bathroom. I appreciated that I sort of spoke up and asked for a discount on the labor costs, and I'm grateful for the person at Lowe's that agreed that there was a discount that was available for me, and I got 10% off.
Score. Thank you, Emil, for sharing. I love that you shared, oh, I didn't realize I had so many accomplishments, right? Because when we're not practicing it or we're not conscious of it, we may not realize, oh, I actually do have a lot of accomplishments. I did get a lot done today, right? And I love how everything related, because you spoke up, you got the discount, so yay, score. Amazing. All right, one more share before we move on to our next activity. Maybe from someone we haven't heard from yet. Melody, excellent.
So I would say one of my accomplishments would be, this is a bit of like, not like a daily one, so it's a bit different, but it would be that finishing my first semester at the University of Guelph, it was very difficult for me because my, health-wise, I wasn't doing so well. Because I got sick with a bacterial infection, and if I tallied up the amount of like school I missed, it would amount to 1 month. So I still managed to finish 3 courses, and I'm quite happy and that I managed to do that. So I'm very appreciative of my determination and resilience in that case, and I'm super grateful for my health right now, because when you get sick like that, and when it like sends you to the hospital and then you get better, it's just very thankful for my health right now.
I'm really glad to hear that you're healthy, you're well. I recall the challenges, so yes, I'm grateful for that, and I love that you recognize your determination that you had. Wonderful. All right, one more quick share, and then we're going to move on to our next activity. Even type it in the chat if you like. Kamani, would you like to share?
Sure. I'd say my accomplishment would be well, the kids that I work with, the improvement overall.
Wow.
That's something I could say an accomplishment. Appreciation, self, and I guess others, friends that support. gratitude, I'd say this form, what we're doing now, because it's a huge reminder, right? So, you know, we don't think about it, but when we're here, it's a good reminder that we have this kind of concept of how we, you know, we go about our daily lives. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Kamani. All right, thanks to everybody for sharing. I'm gonna skip that slide. All right, so activity 2 is affirmations. So who here is familiar with affirmations? Okay, email, right? Anyone else? All right, Alina, William. All right, William, would you like to share? What are affirmations?
I mean, everyone, I guess, will have their own definition, but for me, it's just sort of, you know, like a sense of fulfillment. So just reminding yourself of positivity and things that make you feel fulfilled.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that, William. I would add on to that, the affirmations that we're going to work on and create are like words and affirmative sentences that speak to what we would like. It could be what we like in the future, who we are, and we're putting it in the present moment. I'm going to just flip to the next screen to get a better example of that. So we're actually going to create our own affirmations based on what we've written in the AAGs. Oftentimes affirmations start with I am. However, it doesn't need to. For example, I am enough. I have a sticky note here. I like to keep affirmations around in places I can see, so it always reminds me. I am attracting an abundance of my ideal clients. That's one of my affirmations. I am healthy, I am prosperous, and so on. Again, doesn't have to start with I am. I'm going to give another example using my AAG. So earlier I shared one of my accomplishments is facilitating events on, you know, important, pertinent topics that are near and dear to my heart. So an affirmation I can create from that accomplishment is I am a heart-centered facilitator that creates safe spaces for my ideal clients to share their personal anecdotes in, and I create a space that helps participants learn and grow. And then I shared one of my self-appreciations is, you know, feeling really accomplished, feeling very proud and appreciative of myself for going out of my comfort zone and teaching and leading on topics that are close to my heart. So an affirmation that I will make is something like I am courageous. I share my gifts with the world with ease, grace, and flow. And what I'm grateful for is I'm grateful for everyone here who showed up. So I am surrounded by an amazing community. Would be an affirmation based on what I'm grateful for. Great. Yes, that's another affirmation. Emil shared, I choose to be happy. All right, so let's get to work, and for about 2 minutes, let's create our own affirmations based on what we've written in our AAGs. And we will come back and share. Okay. Any questions? Okay, seems straightforward. Can't wait to hear it. Okay, 4 more minutes. And I just want to give everyone a heads up that the time is now 8:30. So we are going a little bit over time. So if there is anyone who needs to hop off for the evening, totally understand. But for those who are able to stay, there is one more activity after this. Then we will wrap up with our final thoughts and key takeaways. Okay, looks like some folks are still writing. So give it another 30 seconds. Okay, so back to sharing time. Would love to hear your affirmations. Oh, thank you for sharing, Melody. Melody says, I am more than good enough. Keep going, even when the going gets tough. We are all perfectly imperfect. It's more than okay to take that needed break. I love it. Okay, let's keep it going. Mary, would love to hear what you shared or wrote.
So I can't take credit for it, but it was shared with me a long time ago. And it's a quote by Shakespeare from Hamlet, which goes, "For there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And I default to that all the time when it comes in really handy, and it helps empower me and reframe things all the time.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh, Emo says, I am feeling loved. Aw, so that could be I am loved as your affirmation. Mary, maybe if you were to sum it up, if you would take that sentence and sum it up in an affirmation, how would you word it?
I can choose how I want to feel or react
Oh,
to things that happen.
okay, I can choose. I have the power. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, love to hear. Oh, Alina.
Yeah, I would like to share my affirmation recently. And I start. I'm open-minded. I'm willing to try something new. I'm a manager of my department. Being open-minded can help me get along with people of different personalities. I'm willing to learn what my senior deal with the situation I'm in. Yeah, that's my affirmation recently.
Thank you for sharing. I love that it's very like, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to grow. Lorraine. Lorraine, you're on mute.
Sorry. I am going to continue practicing the piano to relieve stress and have enjoyment. I'm going to continue exercising regularly to maintain good health. I am going to continue to think outside the box to prepare activities for my English conversation participants.
Thank you for sharing, Lorraine. One thing I just want to add is oftentimes we think it's happening outside in the future, but affirmations, it takes it into the present moment. So what if you remove the I am going to part, like I am going to exercise, instead you say instead say it in the present moment.
Okay, I'm
Let's try that
exercising
again.
regularly. Okay, I'm exercising regularly.
Yes, I
Thank you.
exercise regularly.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that.
You're welcome. So it brings it back to the present moment and also helps us create this new identity of who we want to be, right? If your goal is to exercise more, we have to get into that feeling, that emotion, and assume and create a new identity for ourselves as someone who does exercise. So I exercise, I create wonderful like lessons. I'm open-minded. Thank you for sharing, Lorraine. And in the chat, Uredo shares, I am loved, I am gifted, I love it, I am blessed. I have a wonderful future with a happy ending. Yes, claim it. Which brings us to our next and final activity, which is all about your future wins. This is a really good segue. All right, so with our future wins, oftentimes, when we make a to-do list, I don't know about you, but when I create a to-do list, sometimes there's not a lot of excitement behind it. It's more like, oh, I have to do this. But when I started to shift and learn about this new method of writing down my future goals and wins as if it already happened, it really motivated me. So I want to share this exercise with you. So there's two parts. The first part is I want you to name 3 immediate future wins. For example, I'll take Lorraine, who said, I will exercise in the future. I am going to exercise, right? Instead of to-do list, I'm going to exercise, right? Let's write it as if it already happened. And you can even be specific about it. What kind of exercise? How many times a week? So it could be something like, I exercise 3 times a week. I do yoga 3 times a week. I go on the treadmill or the exercise bike 3 times a week. And I want you to notice as you write down these accomplishments as if they already happened, notice if there's a shift in your mind instead of like, I have to exercise or my checklist, exercise, complete PowerPoint for this project. See how it feels. Maybe notice in your body if there's any shifts, maybe you feel like an emotion of excitement. So get specific as possible. And so for the first part, name the more immediate future wins. It could even be something that you need to get done tomorrow or by the end of the week. And then number 2, for future scripting purposes, I want you to think of a more far away future win. So it could be anywhere between 0 to 10 years. It could be 5 years out, 6 years, 2 years, 1 year from now. So name 3 wins that you have accomplished. For example, if you're on your way to becoming, a veterinarian, you can already affirm. You say, I am a veterinarian that provides care for pets and animals who are experiencing challenges with their health. It's really based on what you envision for yourself in your future. Right. So what questions do you have before we move on, if any, about this activity? Okay. Seems like it's straightforward. Everyone's already writing it. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to write down these future wins. And remember, put it in the present moment. Okay, I just want to check on everybody, see how you're doing. Seems like some folks are still writing. It takes some deep thought, but I would love to hear from the audience if you'd like to share perhaps one
I'll
from
check
the
in.
first section.
Can I check in to see if I got it right?
Sure, let's hear.
Okay. Which one, the first or the second?
Sure, either, maybe one from each.
Okay, well, the first one is I am, well, I'm exercising 3 times a week and walking 10,000 steps every day. That's a lot. Second one is I'm an accomplished group facilitator. In 10 years, I said I will be, but you want us to use the present tense too in the second one?
Yes, let's aim to use the present tense as if we already accomplished it.
Okay, well, I don't know how to say in 10 years I am an accomplished facilitator because.
Yeah, well, I think you already are an accomplished facilitator.
Well, not really, no.
Okay.
No, I am a speaker who is asked to speak on panels.
Wow.
Those are my dreams.
Yeah. I'm a panelist. I speak regularly on panels.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for sharing, Ronnie. So I think you did the activity correctly, putting in the present moment. And so how did you feel writing that, Ronnie? How did it feel to write it like it already happened?
I feel it's strange, but I feel, again, I should not say it this way, but it's kind of like I wish I had done this 10 years ago, and then I could say now that I am already that. It's kind of long, for me at this point in my life. I still have a good number of years to go, but it's kind of, I missed out on a lot because I kept myself from doing a lot of the things that I could have done.
Thank you for sharing, Ronnie. Yeah, well, it's never too late. And so it seems like this activity got you reflecting on, it's like, we all have stuff that we wish we knew earlier, but yeah, I'm grateful that you're learning now and you can still accomplish all these things. Thank you, Ronnie. Okay, love to hear from another audience member. Yes, Urado.
Thank you. For the first one, I was just going to say I am a medical student. So that's like the immediate future. And then the second one, I was going to say I am a homeowner.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
No worries.
That reminds me of a proverb that I saw. Give thanks for the blessings that are already on its way. So it's easy for us to be grateful for what we already have in our lives at the present moment, but we can also be grateful for what's coming, what's on its way, right? Knowing that is, and having that faith and confidence, knowing that it's on its way, we can be grateful for that as well. And when we are grateful for what's coming and trusting that it's coming, can definitely shift our perspective and get us excited. So, Urado, can you share with us, like, what are some feelings that came up for you when you wrote these things in the present tense, as if it was already happening?
It just made me feel more, what's the word? Like more excited to pursue things. I was like, okay, it made it feel more realistic for me. It's like, okay, I can actually have these things, hopefully. But yeah, that was the feeling I had.
Yay, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And that goes back to the quote I mentioned earlier from Dr. Joe Dispenza that talked about whether it's happening in real life or in our imagination, it feels real to us. And if we can imagine it and use our power of creative visualization and picture ourselves, that would actually be the next step, is the creative visualization. I can share more about that in the final words, is, when we are able to imagine it, right, we can start to create the next steps in our lives, because our brain will start looking for solutions, right, to accomplish those things. Thank you for sharing. Alina.
Yeah, I'd like to share my future wins. And the immediate future win is I will have a good rest and be more energetic for the next semester. And I will spend more time with my family, because when I go to school, we are in different cities, so we can't meet very often. And I will improve the recent project by student union. Okay, that's my three immediately future wins, and my three 0 to 10 years future wins are: I will be a good leader. I can deal with people of different personality. The second one is I will find what my future career will be. I will always love my career. And the last one is I will start a warm family, like what my parents treat me. Yeah, that's my future reasons.
Thank you for sharing that, Alina. So again, I just want to bring up the present tense, right? So we want to put those things that you affirm in the present tense instead of saying, I will find my future career, right? Because then you get the will, right? Instead, let's put it in the present tense. So can you switch it, Alina, to the present tense? It's like, I have.
Oh, okay. Again.
I have a wonderful future career, or I take out the future part. I have a wonderful career.
Oh, great. And
I spend time with my family. I am an amazing leader that works well with people of different personalities.
I'd like to write them down, and yeah.
All right. So for time's sake, I'm going to move forward. Thank you everyone for sharing and doing this activity. I hope that it's brought up a lot of excitement for you in the future. For me, when I write down my to-do list in this form instead, it makes me feel a lot more accomplished, because I'm talking about it like it already happened. And it makes me more motivated to go for it. Wonderful. So winding down, our final thoughts. I wanted to share, I mentioned earlier that the next step after writing down these affirmations and these accomplishments is to start to put some flesh onto the bones. All right. So yes, we've written it down, but the next step is to use the power of our imagination and our creative visualization to start imagine ourselves in that state, in that place where we are already that homeowner, where we're already in medical school, right? So that will be the topic for a whole other workshop. However, little anecdote I wanted to share, I'll use Iredo's example as an example. So Iredo, I would say start to imagine yourself in that future home. Like, get really clear. What does it look like, smell like, who's there? Imagine yourself walking into the house, turning the key, brushing your teeth in the home, like literally visualize it. And then medical school, visualizing yourself sitting in the lecture hall, learning, writing, doing the exams. And I would love to have a check-in to see how the exercise went for you. How does that sound?
Sounds really good. Thank you so much, Valerie.
Awesome. You're welcome. And so that goes for everyone else as well. Alina, imagine yourself as that great leader. Lorraine, imagining yourself on that treadmill or taking the 10,000 steps. All right. So this was a really wonderful workshop. I'm really glad that I decided to facilitate it on the topic of gratitude. It was just an amazing discussion tonight. And truly, gratitude turns what we have into enough. And it's a habit a daily practice that requires discipline, right? I will share, I've been doing the AAG exercise for over a year now. Shout out to my amazing wellness and mindset coach, Jolene, for showing me this exercise. I noticed a big difference when I did it regularly and when I stopped doing it as well. I felt a lot more negative when I started to pick it up again. I came up with all these long lists in my journal of all the things I'm grateful for, and it made me feel so much more positive. And I think someone mentioned it earlier. Choose gratitude now, like not waiting until conditions are right, waiting until we accomplish something, and then we can feel happy, or then we can feel grateful. We, like Mary said, we choose our thoughts. We can choose to be happy. We can choose to be grateful by choosing gratitude as a practice.